Okay, now this lesson is dealing with thumbnails. Now, these drawings that you're looking at here, this was a series of drawings I did in Portugal, yes, last summer, August. And this is 2 hours outside of Porto in a place called Covas do Douro. You laugh at my pronunciation, okay. But what you're seeing now is a combination of a couple different things. First, this lesson is about thumbnails. So where I began, as you can see, I did this little thumbnail here. And I thought of this was basically a thumbnail also. Okay, so, but then I did, when I came down here, this is what I wanted to do. But then as I started drawing, I kept adding to it. Okay, but this was done as a point to point, even though I had done the thumbnail. Okay, so let's take and look at thumbnails for a little bit. Now, thumbnails, there's no rules about thumbnails. Working in a studio environment, we would take and use heavy charcoal, markers, all kinds of different tools. But the idea is, as you look at the photograph, there's endless numbers of drawings that we could do. In the previous lesson, we started at one point. It was a point to point. Thumbnails are a way to get you to focus. And the idea is when you do a thumbnail, it gives you a sense of what the picture is actually going to look like. So yeah, the students have a tendency to take and do one thumbnail. Okay. And then they will, particularly if you're production type thing, you think that, oh, if I do one, that's the best idea. Okay. Maybe, but no guarantee. So as I'm going to go through here now, I'm taking and looking at the truck this thing here that we saw earlier in the previous drawing. Now I'm just going to take and say, no, we got this. And in doing a thumbnail is what you do is you try to get sort of a graphic sense of what the picture would look like. So I'm still tilting the thing. I like the tilt. Okay, so now, but as I'm going through this, and we come through, well, that looks pretty boring to me. Maybe what you do is you keep taking and making thumbnails to take in. Now, the difference between what we're talking about now to when we were doing the point to point, that anytime I stopped, it was done. Okay, with a thumbnail, usually you're talking about you've got a little bit more time. You're going to take, you're planning, you're thinking things out a little bit more. So maybe now I'll take and deal with the wheel of the pickup truck here in the front a little, well, not the wheel, but just the bed here. And coming through, we got this, then we got going here. Well, it's a little bit like what we did before, except I'm taking this, coming through the railroad tracks back here, the shipping, or the cart thing there, getting across. So we've got, look at that. Well, that looks pretty boring to me. Let's take and do another. Now I'm going to take and come back and say, well, see, I don't know if you can see this in the photograph, but what I'm looking at is I just mentally, I'm moving back and drawing this pickup truck. So I'm just seeing the bed of it and the wheel coming down and the shadow. We got through here and we got a wall coming across through here. And I'm not blocking in a lot of perspective. I'm really approaching very much like a point-to-point, but I'm taking in, being a lot looser now, and I'm just taking in, visualizing what these things could take in going through. See, now in this angles and stuff that I'm drawing, you don't see any of the buildings and stuff in the back. All we're seeing is basically looking down. Well, I don't know if I want to do that. Let's take, so we keep doing these thumbnails until you find a picture that you want, that you would like. If we look at a totally different point of view now. I'm going to looking at some of the buildings, some of the other buildings. We can see that we got the perspective thing of the train tracks going back. And we got the fence in here. And I take the building back here. It's kind of strong dark. This is going up. Well, it's pretty uninteresting. It could become something that maybe, since this is all in shadow, coming through, I can pick up the things back here. Yeah, it's still pretty boring. So you're constantly going through the thing. Now, right now I'm using the pencil. Now, what I do a lot of drawing with is working with my Altoid cans and looking at supplies and stuff. I talked about some of the tools that I use. Now, this is a watercolors that I put into with using Sculpey into an Altoid can. Now, as I'm going through here, I'm taking it. Now, in many respects, the brush is a lot easier because you can block in tones and things a lot better. So now I'm taking and going back and sort of looking at what we had done before and saying, well, what if I took and came in and moved this thing over and took the trees and here. See, I can start blocking in values a little bit easier. And then I'm taking how buildings back there going through. And we're going across. And again, we got the perspective of where the train tracks stuff going through. Yeah, that's a little maybe. But I still keep coming back to this truck. The truck seems to be more interesting. And so I need to take and see if I can come up with some angles. Now, often, I said we don't start with the first idea. Maybe the first idea was the best one. Maybe not. You never know until you take and try other possibilities. So now I'm going to take it and let's see. Going through. Yeah. Still, now when I'm looking at this now, is I'm doing this. I'm starting to think that, well, gee, maybe that's a little bit more the line. That's taking in, like I said in the last lessons, you don't really see something until you draw it. Now I'm coming across, and now as I look at this, there's just a little bit more of a play here. I can see there's a palm tree in here, and a very straight box, a truck that's in behind. Then we've got this shape coming across in here, and we can see now I'm starting to get to maybe that might be a little bit more interesting. Now, so we've got a bit of a play now taking place. What I mean by play, now I'm going to take and do this a little bit more up on the other side here. And like I say, sometimes you can do this with all kinds of different media. I'm going to take and jump over to working with my pen. So when I'm traveling, these are the things I carry in my pocket. I have this in my pocket, I have my pen in my pocket, my water brush in my pocket, and sketchbook. And I'll use multiple sizes of sketchbooks. Okay, let's take and I'm going to do this over. Camera wasn't picking that up very well. Now, the thumbnails that you do also are dependent on what the functions for. Are you doing this for it's like a storyboard? Okay, or are you just doing it for a painting? I'm going to come through here and I look at this and I say, now this is going. Take this line and see the other. We got some more beat up cars and crosses here, which I didn't see at all before in terms of thinking about this. And then we've got this straight coming across. And the palm tree behind. So any of the designing that I'm doing is really more of picking the arrangement of the shapes that are already existing there that I'm looking at. This is the back of a truck or a cargo container of some sorts. So we've got this coming through. Now I'm taking and going across. So already now, this is so much more interesting than what I started on coming through. So now, through and taking a thing, what you still got this pickup truck in here. But now I've encompassed so much more of the environment. Through. Now, one of the differences, again, it should be apparent that in contrast to the point to point, I'm blocking in large areas. But the actual what you're doing, you're still picking a point and you're carrying a line, but you're thinking in terms of having things roughed in. So it's a different thing. And if I would carry the drawing, then taking and doing the drawing from the thumbnail, then I would take and be really sort of thinking about these things and blocking the drawing in a bit more. Okay. Now, I could take what I've got here and also consideration is that we look at the colors that we're working with. Okay. Now, as I'm doing this, what I see, and if you look at the photograph, now I need to clean this little bit of a palette that I've got here. Often traveling, I rate the restaurants by the quality of their napkins. Okay, so now what we have in here, now I've got ink on here, so the ink's going to distort it, but I can get a sense of what's going. So in other words, what we have, this is the truck, roof of the truck is yellow. Now, what we see, and this is sort of interesting, the truck is rusted. So we find that we've got these bands of color coming around. Now, the tree, of course, it's the pretty strong color of, let's see, we got it's a little too strong of a green. In fact, that's a common failing. Most people tend to make things way too extreme greens, like taking it out of the tube type things. In reality, most of your foliage is actually relatively gray. Okay, so I'm looking and thinking of this. Okay, now there's even looks like primer that's been on the side of the truck that actually come up quite blue. Still cleaning the brush here. So when I work with the water brush, I just take squeeze to clean the brush off. So then I can get a little cleaner color. So you can feel some of the color coming through. And you have to take the whole interior of that truck now. Of course, it's dark. And I can take that, and to get that dark, I'll go in with a fairly strong color so I can take and pull through. No, that's not anywhere near strong enough. Yeah, I'm starting to get there. And so I'm doing this just as a way of blocking it in. The thumbnail is just your visual thinking. And we've got this rusted thing over here. And there's quite a bit of blue on that. And in fact, we get the a blue, and a bit is a little heavy. But the idea, I was thinking of the warm colors against cool colors. And we start picking up, even in the shadows in here, that's not that the ink's picking up, but that's the cool shadow. Got the tree. And then, of course, we've got you take the panels in here, the truck back to the palm tree behind. In a sense, is red for a telephone pole. Then we get the gray of the palm tree behind that, which is not really coming through, is very gray. A little better. Okay. And a blue sky. So need to really try to clean this off a little bit. And so what we got is, for me now, I'm looking at this, we've got a warm colors, and basically we've got a lot of cool colors working against with it, and very, very simple shapes, round curve, junk, straight lines. That could be interesting. That could be interesting. And now, so as I'm doing that now, I'm looking at that. Well, that's sort of a starting point now. What if I take and just change? And this is the thing that you have to keep in mind now. It's important to constantly taking and trying. How about another variation on that?